The compound bow, one of the two weapons that was added in season 5, and we finally have access to it. You can unlock it right from the rip, and basically to unlock it, if we just go into the menus here, let's just go back, and then you go to the events tab, which takes a little bit to load, and then we go season, and then we go new weapon compound bow. As you can see, you can either do it in operations or warfare. Now, if you do it in warfare, you only need to get 60,000 points total in warfare, and then it's like 3 different tiers. So you get like 20,000 points, you claim whatever is there, then 40,000, then 60,000, and then you can just unlock the compound bow. So the bow itself definitely takes a little bit of time to get used to it, as it is a very different weapon from anything else that we have in Delta Force. But let's get right into the build. Now, the bow itself doesn't have many levels. It only has 8, so just use your cards and upgrade it to the max, and there's a lot of things that you can't do. So I wanted to just talk about the different attachments and how I approach the use of the compound bow in Delta Force. So starting off with the stabilizer, I chose to go with the compound bow competition balance stabilizer. That's a mouthful. Now the other one is basically allowing you to get those longer shots off because you have increased stability and a slightly increased handling at the cost of accuracy. I was using it a little bit more aggressive, so really like point firing most of the time, which is why I went with this one to really bump up the accuracy. You're losing a little bit of stability, but it's not too bad. So install that. Then for the grip piece, I chose to go with the compound bow enhanced grip piece, which drastically improves your accuracy at the cost of handling. So you're really going to be able to fire people with the compound bow pretty easily at a decent-ish range. So go ahead and install that. Then for the arrow rest, so you only have one option here, but it does increase your range by 9, and it also increases your reload speed, as well as increases the muzzle velocity. So you're going to be able to have the arrows fly straighter, thus needing to compensate less when you're firing at people at range. So install that. The string, same thing. You only get one option here, so it increases your range by 9 meters at which you do max damage, and it also increases your muzzle velocity and the draw speed, allowing you to fire off arrows in quicker succession. For the bow limb, now you have 2 options here, the compound bow light limb or the compound bow heavy limb. Now, if you were to look at this and just straight up see like, oh, this one only gives positives and this one, you know, negatively affects the stability and only gives +2 handling, why wouldn't I just go with this one? Well, this one increases your ADS spread or decreases it, so when you're ADSing, the arrows will fly more towards the middle, as opposed to the compound bow light limb. This one significantly reduces base hipfire spread, so when you're just hip firing your bow, it will go a lot straighter where you're aiming as opposed to veering off to the left, to the right. But it does increase your ADS spread, meaning that when you're ADSing with the bow, it will affect the arrow and it might fly off to the right or to the left a lot more than if you were using this. So it's really more of how you're actually using the bow. I opted for this one. I felt like it still performed very well because I was hip firing in arguably CQB enough situations that it didn't really feel all that bad, and I did want to have the option to fire at people at longer ranges, so I simply chose to go with the compound bow heavy limb. You also have the option to put a bow sight on here. Just be aware, the zoom on this is 2 to 4x, so you can actually adjust the zoom between 2 to 4x, and it also reduces your accuracy. I felt like it was too zoomed in for my personal taste, but this being said, I saved a bow configuration with the optical zoom and without the optical zoom. So if I'm playing in a map that I know I'm not really going to be ADSing, or I don't want that 2x or 4x zoom, I'll just use the version that I don't have a sight on. And then if I want to go on maps, or I'm playing on a map that has maybe longer sight ranges and I want something that's a little bit more accurate and have an optical zoom, I will use this one. I actually got some pretty decently long range kills with the bow on Cyclone, just on snipers that were pestering our team. It is always pretty funny, and if you get a headshot with this, no matter the range, it is a one-shot kill. Just go ahead and install this, and I'll show you how to save it. So if you don't know, if you're new to Delta Force, if you go to loadout here, you can save your build. So if we just save it here and actually just rename this one and go with sight. So there you go. You have a bow with the sight and a bow without the sight. Now, unfortunately, one thing that sucks is you can't calibrate the bow. So there's nothing you can do with any of it. So I would have liked to reduce the zoom on the optic, but unfortunately you can't. And there's also no skins for the bow. So even if you get like, you know, the 150 or 200 kills required to get the top edge skin, there's simply no skins for the bow, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. I would imagine they're going to be releasing some pretty sweet skins for this thing later down the line. Now, if we look at the details details pane here before I keep rambling on. You can see you're doing 212 damage to the head. So no matter the range at which you're firing, if you get a headshot and just a one-shot kill, you're doing 112 damage to the chest or thorax. So that's also one-shot kill, except if the enemy is wearing tactical shields. So just keep that in mind. And then you're doing 100 damage across the board for everything else. For the control, it's a single shot weapon, so it doesn't really matter. Then for the handling, pretty decent ADS speed and a pretty decent current sprint fire delay. So 150 milliseconds from the time that you stop sprinting to the time that you are actually able to fire your bow. And in stability and accuracy, you know, this one's 24 accuracy, so very little spread, and it's going to pretty much go right on target every time. Now you can partly draw your arrow and fire it really quickly, but it won't be doing maximum damage, at least from what I've been able to experience. So if you're firing too quickly, you won't be getting that 112 damage, and it might result in you firing an arrow that doesn't kill somebody, and chances are you're probably going to be dead before you can get another one off. So just make sure that you're always drawing your arrow back completely before firing. It is to note that if you are holding an arrow back, but you're not ADSing, you conserve the sprint speed. So not the tactical sprint speed, but you can still run as if you were just running regularly without ADSing or stuff like that. So you can pretty consistently keep your arrow drawn back, especially when you think you're going to be getting into a combat situation, to have it at the ready for the enemy that might be coming around the corner. While using the bow, I did notice some inconsistencies with the targeting, or actually the hit registration. Sometimes I saw my arrow basically go right on target and they wouldn't die. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it's the leaning that's affecting the bow. I found that it was often when I was leaning that the arrow would just, my sights were right on the person, the arrow would fly straight towards them, but there would be no hit registration at all. So keep that in mind when using this weapon. But overall, the bow is just, it's a fun weapon to use. I wouldn't say it's necessarily competitive, but it is definitely fun because you're one-shotting people. And when you can get some really good flanks off, considering that this weapon basically produces no sound, you can take out a lot of enemies before they even notice that you're there. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun to use. I probably wouldn't, you know, use it regularly because you're going to be outclassed by a lot of the other weapons, but it is still very fun to use. I wish it was available to all the classes as opposed to just the assault and the recon, because I feel like it's not necessarily a weapon that's going to be meta, right? It's more like not necessarily a meme weapon, but it's more of a niche weapon. So I really don't see why it wouldn't be available to all the classes. So as per usual, the share codes for the bow build, even if there's not much to it, will be in the description down below, as well as in the top pinned comment if you want to go and try it out for yourselves. If you have tried out the bow, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. In any case, I'll leave you with a few highlight clips of me using it. And yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.
Hostile eliminated!